Okay, so go ahead.
My first job with IBM was taking care of the key punches,
Yeah, the tabulators and stuff.
and then I worked downtown Detroit a lot, and then computers started to come up. Oh, no, I have another story, a good one. The tabulated machines, the U.S. government sued IBM and said you have to sell them if somebody wants to buy them. They were only leased. So my boss sent me to a place to check a couple of tabulating machines that George Crane, he was Jewish too, by the way. He was buying machines and selling them, but they had to be approved for a maintenance contract with IBM or nobody would buy them. So my boss sent me there, and I talked to George in a little bit. He said, and George said, I don't know what you make at IBM. I'll pay you double if you come fix these machines up for me. And I did that for 9 years, worked 2 jobs, and saved some good money.
Yeah.
Made a bar mitzvah for my son, where we had a band, a huge dinner, and I had everybody dressed in tuxedos, and I paid for it all. So I was making pretty good money then. And after the tabulating machines, the computers came in. And I went to, where did I first go? Poughkeepsie, New York, which is above New York City.
Okay.
Beautiful area. I remember they brought Khrushchev, the Russian boss, for a ride through there. And my first computer was an Air Force computer, which did send messages back and forth to all the Air Force bases. And I had to have a security clearance first. And everybody said, how come these people showed up on our street asking about you? Because my dad, I think the main thing was, my dad was born in Russia in 1902.
Okay.
And Grandpa came here in 1903. So I guess he was just a baby. He doesn't know anything about it. But I think because of the Russian thing I put down, they did a lot of investigating.
Right.
And this was in the old Packard building on the east side of Detroit, which they're destroying now. And because Packard was going out of business, Essex Wire Company bought the building, and they were leasing offices to about 10 other customers. So I had the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force in the same building for customers, plus a couple others. But I liked working in the Packard building, although it was hard to get home at 5 o'clock on the. And
You were still living in Detroit at that time also?
yes, yeah, I was living in Detroit. Till when? I forgot when I moved. 1967, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I went to work for IBM at 1955.
Okay.
So I was still living in Detroit. And then they came out with another computer, a smaller one, with vacuum tubes. And I went to school for that in New York City. And then the computers got bigger and bigger. One would not fit in my house. And I came home and told my wife on Friday, I'm going to Rochester, Minnesota. She said, how long? I said, 3 months.
She probably wasn't too excited about that,
Get me a housekeeper.
huh? Was she able to ever go with you on any of these trips, or she usually stayed here?
She stayed here because we had kids now.
Oh, okay, you had kids at that point. So when did you have your first kid? Wait, when was that?
He's 67 now.
Okay.
I'd be 1956.
Okay. So right after you started at IBM, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. He was 2 years old when we lived in Detroit. And all my friends were moving to Livonia. So we went to Livonia and got not a big house, 950 square feet. Had to put down $300, which I borrowed from my dad.
Okay.
So we lived in Livonia for quite a few years, about 18 years. And one son said to me, the middle one, I'm not sleeping with him. So it was pretty handy in those days. I built rooms down the basement and directed the heating. And I could do a lot of stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then IBM kept building computers, and I went to Dallas for a month or two, and New York City 3 times. But the best place was Atlanta, Georgia. I really liked Atlanta. I wanted to move there, and she didn't want to move. And I taught a couple of classes there. And I committed a great sin there, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay. That's not why you liked Atlanta, though.
No.
Okay, good. So,
Well, at least lived across the hall from me. She said, why don't you come over to my apartment? But we don't want to talk about
right, gotcha. Okay. So, let's see. Now, you're working for IBM. You're living in Livonia. You're building extra rooms for the kids and stuff.
And well, in 18, 5 is 13. Oh, sorry, Rochester.
Yeah, and you were telling me you were in Livonia. We were talking about.
Oh, we lived 18 years, 1955. What's 55 and 18?
73.
Oh, we moved to Farmington Hills
Okay.
because I had a few bucks now.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky. IBM was a very good company to invest in. So we would sign up and we got the base price for the stock. And it would double or triple in 2 or 3 years. So I saved some money that way. And we could afford to move to Farmington Hills.
They were built. That was new subdivision. This was at that time, or was,
Yeah, it was brand new. And then what I do, I have to think for a minute.
no problem. So that's the house you currently still live in, right? So you've lived here a long time.
More than 45 years.
Yeah. So that was a good move. So were you still working at IBM the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
Did you retire from IBM?
Yes.
Okay.
And when I was, I have another story. I took my Social Security when I was 64. But I was still working for IBM and a side job for some other people. And they said, you're making too much money. You got to give Social Security back after money. So I wrote them a check. I says, here's everything you gave me. I'll come back in a year or two. I don't know if that rule's still in.
Yeah, I think it is. You can only make so much. So
I left IBM when I was 66. And what did I do then? Oh, I used to swim every morning at Caustic Center.
was this while you were still working your whole life, or ever since you lived in Farmington, or after you retired?
After I retired.
Okay.
I didn't want to sit around, so I swam. And the director of the swimming division said, why don't you become a lifeguard? I said, I'm 68 years old. She said, try it. I became a lifeguard at 68 years old.
Nice.
And I did that till I was 83. when I was 83, one of the, you have to keep qualifying every couple of years. I had to rescue the distressed swimmer. So the distressed swimmer was, I think he was Steve, an electrician, 6'3", big and strong. You have to get behind him, get him under the arms, and get him out of the pool. And I couldn't do it. He was too big. So I worked till I was 83 years old.
That's amazing.
Didn't make a lot of money, but I
no,
didn't
but
care.
to be honest, I mean that's probably why you're 95 still kicking it, because you did all that extra work, keeping busy
I
and
think
keeping
so.
active.
Oh, another thing about IBM, I had retired already 6 or 7 years, and all the Olive Gardens and some hotels were getting new computers. So I went back to work for IBM for about 4 or 5 months and did about 5 Olive Gardens. Uh, we argued about the price. I told them what I wanted. They said, "You're not getting it." So they gave me $25 an hour. That wasn't bad then.
Right.
I was in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad. I wanted more, but they wouldn't do it.
You were probably excited to go back to work more than anything a little bit after being
Yeah.
retired for a little while, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, hanging around the house too much was no good.
Dorothy probably said, "Hey, why don't you go back to work for a little while?"
I think she liked it.
With you being here, or are you at work?
What?
Do you think she liked you being here more or being at work?
Being at work.
Yeah. Well,
we're already married,
right.
20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So my whole life I've been very, very lucky. Always made a living. Always had a job. Up till I was 83.
Okay.
That's enough.
Yeah, you put your time in, that's for sure.
Yeah, I put in my time.
And you raised 3 kids along the way and had a
I
great.
had the same problem here with the house. This is only a 3-bedroom house. My wife loved this house because we have a large bedroom with 2 big walk-in closets.
Oh, okay.
She said, "I want this house." But because there was only 3 bedrooms, I built 3 rooms down the basement.
Okay.
Really did good. I went to, at that time it was called Forest City. And I bought all the wood and all the things I did there. I did my own wiring down there, put in my own heat ducts. But we don't go down there anymore because it's full of junk now.
I have fond memories of Forest City with my grandpa Sal. Because
Yeah.
when I was young, we built our house. My parents did, and my grandpa helped us. Obviously, every weekend we would go there from Rovo.
Well, he was a real carpenter.
Yeah, he was a carpenter.
I
Yeah.
have to say, I could never catch up in salary to the electricians and carpenters.
Really?
Their unions always got a buck or two more than I could get.
Probably not anymore. I think the people at IBM are making more than the carpenters now.
Well, IBM is not the same company.
No.
They always took in over $100 billion.
Yeah.
Now they're down to about 70 billion.
Yeah.
So it's
Times are tough, huh? Only 70 billion.
yeah. Well, they're still a pretty good size
Yeah, I know.
company. And I still have some stock that I bought that I get dividends on. Not a lot, about 40 shares. But they pay a dividend every 3 months. So they're pretty good. What did I do after I was 83? I golfed a lot, 3 times a week, Fridays.
Were you always a golfer growing through your whole life, or was that more of a retirement thing also?
I was a golfer, but I never good.
Okay. Is that still the case?
I like bowling. I bowled a lot. Wasn't bad. I'm about 175 average.
Okay,
It
that's
wasn't
pretty good.
bad. So I was always interested in sports. And I would go for a walk in the neighborhood all the time. And that bothers me now because now I'm almost crippled. And because I couldn't too many sports. I quit walking in the neighborhood, but I still bowl. And golfing, I may have to give up because of my legs.
Yeah. Well, you were golfing this year though, right? Just until recently, you've
Up
been
till June.
till June. You've been
And
good.
then all of a sudden, my legs started to go bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't hit a ball to save my soul.
Right.
My son Jeffrey is a real golfer. He tees off about 230 or 40 yards. And this year, when I golfed, I was lucky to get 160 yards.
Okay.
So I lost a lot of my golfing prowess.
So Jeff's a good golfer, huh? I've never seen him golf. I played hockey with him, but no golf.
Oh, you play hockey with
Yeah, I play hockey with Jeff on a few nights. Yep. On Fridays we
Well,
play.
I think that's pretty good. 67 years.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And he's on skates.
Yep, takes after his father. Still moving out there and cruising around.
I told him never quit.
Yeah,
Can
definitely.
you turn it off for a minute?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to talk about Dorothy. What a good girl she was. We were married 70 years. And when I took her to Alabama and I was in the Army, she had to stay in that room where we roomed while I was at the Army post. But she was such a smart girl. I left her the car. She went downtown, Dothan, not a great big city, and got a job at the bank working 3 hours a day.
Okay.
And then a lawyer came in and he liked her. So she had 2 jobs working 3 or 4 hours a day. And she made her own money. We didn't have much there. I would steal from KP. When I was on KP, I would steal a lot of stuff and take it home with me.
That's kitchen patrol, right? KP. Yeah. Okay, so you're stealing food basically.
Yeah. I don't want to admit I'm a crook. But
well, you were making ends meet, I guess, right?
I forgot. In those days, I think we got first in the Army $75 a month.
Didn't go far, huh?
And so
she probably didn't have many friends or anything down there either because she had moved away from her family and stuff and all her friends.
I did meet a couple of people. One lived in New Jersey and one lived in Detroit. So we hung around a little bit on the weekends if we weren't on duty.
Right.
And our first, our honeymoon, I forgot. I got married on a 3-day pass, and our honeymoon was in Panama City, Florida.
Okay.
I had a 3-day weekend. And we had so much money, we had to decide whether to eat or sleep in the car.
What did you decide?
I think we spent $5 for the motel.
Okay. Yeah. Probably a good choice.
$5 was a lot of money.
You can eat later. Right?
Hotel today.
Right.
You're lucky to pay $100. And then after a few months, I told her about the FECOM list and I'm going overseas. So I took her home. And
oh, so she came back to Detroit when you went overseas?
Yeah. She Dorothy's mother was divorced from the father.
Okay.
After 1 year. The father was modern, up to date. He had a print shop. But the mother was from Poland. And they had a lot of funny things. She said, don't do this because the baby will come out bad or something.
Okay. A lot of superstitions.
Yeah, a lot of superstition. So then I went overseas. I was gone more than a year. Came home, then went to school for a couple of years. And our first child, it took us 5 years to have our first child. So Dorothy was a pretty good girl. and she is gone 3 years, 5 months, and 17 days. So I miss her very, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, she at least cleaned the house. I don't do that. And I have to tell more about Dorothy. When we went to Alabama, she was such a good cook. She put on a pot of water to boil eggs. She said, "How do you know when the water's boiling?" Because she didn't live with mother or father. She lived with a friend of the mother.
Okay.
So she didn't learn cooking or sewing or anything like that.
Now, why did she live with a friend of the mother? That's
Because the mother had to live with her sister,
oh, okay.
the mother's sister, and there was no room for Dorothy.
Gotcha.
And she didn't want to live with the father. So the father wanted me so bad to work for him. He had a print shop. And I thought, if I work for him, I'm going to be there 7 days a week. And I turned it down.
Okay. Probably.
He just had a small print shop with a few machines in it. But he made a living. And what did we do then?
So looking back, that was probably a good move since you went to IBM eventually instead of working at the small print shop, huh?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Hold on. So we were talking about Dorothy.
When I was older already, 65 or so, we had a lot of good friends, and 8 of us would go to Florida for a month every year and hang around together. That was some of the best years of our life.
Okay.
Very good.
So how old were you? What years was this approximately? Like in the 90s or something?
I was already 70 years old. So
Okay, so it'd be 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So in the early 2000s.
yeah. And I forgot the name of the town. What's close to Fort Lauderdale? Anyhow, we all 8 stayed. We 8 of us stayed there, and we hung around together, and it was very, very pleasant. Very nice time.
It was always the same 8 people. It was kind of like a yearly thing you guys would do together.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And Florida was good, not like today where it's 5 degrees or something.
Right, right.
So we enjoyed that a lot.
Well, that's cool.
And Dorothy, all the Jewish girls played this game, Mahjong. And she had to play Mahjong twice a week. I had to babysit or stay home with the kids.
What kind? Is it like a card game or something? Or like a board game or?
They're little tiles.
Oh, okay.
You have to get like 3 crack, 3 bad, whatever it was. The boys never learned it.
Gotcha.
But all the girls, all the women still play it.
Okay.
And
Now, did you play sports or anything during that time, or what did you do for hobbies? You know, when you were younger, did you do anything, or you mostly just worked?
mostly just work. I remember stamp collecting
Okay.
in Detroit when I was 14 or 15. We would walk through the alleys looking for old letters. And we took the stamps off and we'd make a stamp collection.
Okay.
And I can't believe today it would be
Worth a lot, huh?
yeah, worth a lot of money. But I lost it somehow.
Right.
So it's gone.
Have you ever collected anything? Have you ever been a collector of coins or anything else, or baseball cards or anything like that?
Oh, baseball cards.
Yeah, you were into
I
that.
had Ty Tyson and all those old guys. That would be worth a lot of money
Right.
too.
Yeah. If only you knew back then, huh?
Yeah.
That's what makes them valuable because nobody knew, so they threw them all away. So,
Yeah, if I'd have known they'd be valuable in a few years.
right.
And we went to the baseball games. it was still Briggs Stadium. And we sat in the bleachers for 50 cents. Today, to see the Lions play next Sunday, the cheapest seat you can buy is $600.
Yeah. I just heard someone on the way here saying they sold one ticket for $1,200. So, yeah, it's a little crazy. Times have changed, huh?
I love playing baseball.
You do?
I was
Yeah, you
never-
did.
I was always a third base.
That's where you liked it, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to. Oh, I did try out. The Yankees came here, and they had tryouts.
Okay.
And it was still Tiger Stadium, so they put me way in the outfield. I think almost 400 feet. Had to throw the ball to home plate with my bounce. I could not do it, so I didn't become a professional baseball player.
Well, you must have been pretty good to even think about trying out. So,
Yeah, at least I tried out.
yeah, that sounds exciting.
I could hit the long ball. I could hit singles, not many doubles.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever get to meet any of the good players or anything? Any of the Tigers or any of the New York team?
I met him when I worked for IBM, and the owners got computers to sell tickets.
Oh, okay.
So I met some of the players there. And I was going to talk about baseball to them. They wanted to know about the computer. Who was that? George Kell.
Oh, okay.
He played third base. He was one of their top players ever.
Yeah.
And we had a few talks. I remember Bob Swift was the catcher. Anyhow, I met them there while I was working.
Sounds like IBM took you to a lot of cool things, like a lot of cities you got to see in a lot of parts of the
They sent
country.
me all over the country. Well, Minnesota, Dallas, Atlanta, New York City, Poughkeepsie.
So out of all the places in the country, Atlanta is probably your favorite?
Yeah, they built Atlanta was the best.
It was the best.
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
Well, they had everything there. I met a lot of friends, became friends with people, even though I was only there 1 or 2 or 3 months at a time. And
The weather.
I liked teaching.
Okay.
Some of the old machines were still around in Detroit. They said, Marty, we need someone who knows these things down there. So I went down and I was teaching a class, and they started hiring women to work on the old tabulating machines or electronic computers. Oh yeah, it was the first computers. I was teaching the class, and they had to get down on their hands and knees with oscilloscopes, which track electric, see if this pulse was going in, if it came out the other side. And the girls worked so hard. A guy at 5 o'clock went out to eat. The girls went home and studied.
Right.
I remember one time I was at the blackboard and explaining some stuff, and the girl said, the book says it's this way. And I found out I never read the book. She knew more than me. But I said to the boss, I don't know if this is a good job for women. That was a bad thing to say. And he said, I think you should pack your bags and go home.
Really?
Well, I did finish that class, but he wouldn't let me teach anymore down there. So you couldn't say anything bad about women in those days.
Right.
But the girls were so smart. They knew everything, but they're not used to getting on hands and knees and tracking electricity. And the printers, they would get ink all over themselves. IBM had one thing. I had to wear a white shirt with a certain color tie and a suit. And when I first started with them, I went to a meeting wearing a sport coat, and everybody stared at me. So they had their own dress code, but it's good that way.
Right.
When I walked into an office, they said, "Here comes IBM," because I had the suit and tie on.
Right. Here comes somebody important, right?
Oh, sometimes very important. I remember Chrysler in Highland Park. I walked in the door, and they said, "Because of your crazy computer, 9,000 people are not getting paid tomorrow." And then the big boss said, "Get out of his way, get him a cup of coffee, quick." But I fixed it right away, no problem.
Right.
I knew that computer. The computers in those days had like 16 boxes, 4 tape drives, 4 disk drives, big power supply. Now I think the telephone has 10 times as much.
In that little, yeah. It's amazing, huh?
Things kept getting smaller. And it wasn't like every Friday I had to check tubes.
Right,
Sure
right.
they were okay. So, I joined the IBM club. And
What is the IBM Club?
IBM club did picnics and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And after a couple of years, they said, "Marty, you're going to be one of the leaders." I said, "I don't want it." They said, "You are." So, but they were good about it. I rented the Boblo boat.
Okay.
I rented City Hall downtown for the Christmas party. So they were good in that way.
Yeah. So would IBM actually pay for that stuff then? And you, or was
Well,
it just,
they paid for everything.
they paid for everything? So you would set it up and everybody could come?
I don't know how much the Boblo boat
Yeah.
cost, I'm sure.
That's cool though. That's nice that you were part of that.
Yeah. I like doing that, and had to check the presents. They gave out, each kid that came got a present. So they were good company for a long time. Now I don't like them because I retired. I was, how old was I? 68. Oh no, I have another story. I was 57 years old.
Okay.
And they're cutting down. They say, "We want you to retire." And I told them, "I'm only 57 years old." They said, "You retire. You're going to come back as a consultant." So I got a pension and a paycheck for 9 years.
Even better, huh?
Yeah. So I never had money problems. Well, way back.
Right, right.
Yeah. If you have to borrow $300
To get your place.
your house, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're a hard worker your whole life, so I'm sure that has something to do with it.
But after a while, I had to leave because I'm not a regular employee. They wouldn't send me to school anymore.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't learn the new stuff. So
So kind of technology was passing up.
Oh yeah,
going
I was
fast.
66 years old now.
Yeah.
And I did say I came back after a few years to do the Olive Gardens. Mostly just doing wiring. I didn't know how the computer worked, but I did the wiring instead of the computer stations and did a lot of work. So I've been working my whole life.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. I would go back now if somebody offered me a good job.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So what else? So we've talked a lot about your career. We talked a little bit about Dorothy, and then you. What about your kids? How many kids did you have?
We had 3 sons. One, the baby, who's now 59 years old. is doing very well. He's got his own financial business. He moved to I forgot the name of the lake. He wanted a house on the lake, and so he got the house. This year he had it torn down because he wants a new house.
Right.
New house is going to be about $1.5 million on the lake, so he's doing all right. And Jeffrey became a music director and band leader, and he gets a very good pension, and his wife gets a pension. The middle son has problems. I have to help him a lot. But I'm glad that I can do it.
Right.
Very lucky.
Yep.
Very lucky. Oh, and Bob, that's the financial director. He bought some very good stocks for me.
Okay.
And like McDonald's went up 8 times what I bought it for. So money is not my problem. My health, which is just starting to go bad now,
Yeah.
is my problem. But I was okay up till the middle of the year. Played golf twice a week. We have a nice Farmington Hills golf league.
Okay.
134 guys. And
Do you play at the Farmington Hills Golf Course?
Yeah.
On 11 Mile?
yeah,
Okay.
so I did that. And but I think my golf days are ended. And this is the first time I ever missed bowling. I went to the bowling alley, and I was very shaky
Yeah.
walking up there with a ball, and I'm afraid of falling. I've fallen 7 times in the last 2 months
Right.
and hurt myself. So I have to give up bowling and golf now, and that bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
But it's time. I had a very good life. I can't complain about it.
Yeah, and things just keep changing all the time, right? You just keep going.
Yeah, very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Did get shot at in Korea just
Yeah.
a couple times.
Right. Well, it sounds like you had some mortars lobbed at your head, or at you guys' base or whatever, but still.
Yeah,
At least, like you said, you were a little behind the line and didn't see real frontline
I
action.
remember the very first week, the trucks had to go up and deliver food and the stuff on the front line, and it got stuck in the mud or whatever. And the guys we were replacing were still there. They said, Marty, take the A-frame, which has got a big towing bar on it, and go bring that truck back. So I drove up there. When the Chinese saw that truck, they started shooting at it.
Yeah, that was probably a big one for big target, huh?
Yeah, that wasn't fair to send me up there. So next time any trucks got stuck, we went at night.
Gotcha. You made it. You obviously made it back that time, though, so that's good.
Oh, yeah. I got out of there fast.
Real quick.
I don't know. We moved around in Korea a lot. I think every 3 months they moved us somewhere. And one place we went to where we had actual tents and real food cooked in the kitchen in Koji Island,
Okay.
where they had about 50,000 prisoners. And I was more than a mile away from where they were, but they revolted at that time, the prisoners. And I think the Americans killed about 30 or 40 of them.
Okay. That ended the revolt at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Chinese leaders told their people what they're going to do.
Right.
Their sergeants or whatever they were. And they didn't disobey because they had families back in China
Right.
and would take it out on them. And where else did I live? Chunshan. I remember Chunshan had an Air Force base. And I went there to pick up parts for our meals where we were. We got sea rations. And you got 3 little cans of food, maybe a candy bar or chewing gum. And I got to hate corned beef hash. They were like only they weren't 3 ounces high, the cans, and they gave you a can opener with it, and we all called it the church key. But then I had to go to the Air Force Base in Chuncheon and pick up parts, and I found out I joined the wrong service. They had tables with being served steak and everything else.
Right.
Boy.
Yeah.
So the Air Force got a lot, although I have to say another thing bad about the Air Force. Every morning, 6 planes would go over. Sometimes only 5 came back.
Okay.
You know, that guy
Yeah.
got shot down.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about too, that you kind of touched on them a little bit, but what about your parents and stuff? Just for any relatives that might want to hear about where your parents came from.
I have to tell you about Dad. I told you he was born in Russia.
Yeah.
Came as a baby. I thought if he was a year old. He lived on the same street in Detroit. I can't remember his name. Abe something. That was the head of the Purple Gang
Okay.
in Detroit. Very bad guys. They wanted my dad
To join.
work with them. And my dad, they wanted him to drive across the Detroit River to pick up liquor. And my dad thought, I'm in a truck. If it goes through the ice, I'm going to die. So he only worked for him once or twice and didn't go back there.
So that's how they used to get bootleg liquor across, right? They would bring it across on the frozen river at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or wherever they got it.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that before, so some people may
So
not
they
know.
were bad. There was near a street called 12th Street, and there was a delicatessen, and the Purple Gang shot up a guy there and killed him. So they were bad guys.
Yeah. So your dad avoided them
I
somehow.
avoided them. He worked in the factory his whole life.
What factory? What?
He worked for Chevrolet, and he became a linen driver.
Okay.
Dad when he was 18, he was a prize fighter.
Okay.
He had a temper, and he could fight anybody. So when I was maybe 15 or 16, he got a job with linen supply company, delivering linens. And I went with him, and we were on near Russell Street and Clay Street, which was all black.
Okay.
And a lot of them were hanging out in the street. And one of them cut him off. He got out of the truck and said, "You goddamn Goldman."
Okay.
I said, "Dad, you're going to get us killed.
Right.
There's 1,000 people." He wasn't afraid of anybody in the world. And the linen supply, he argued with the boss, and he smacked the boss. He got fired from that job. And then he went to work for the burial service, the funeral home
Oh, okay.
called Hesed Shalemus. 65 years old, he hit his partner. He had a temper. When I was young, he showed me, in those days they had a razor strop.
Okay.
He showed me that. I was a very good boy.
What is that? Oh, a strap?
Yeah.
Something you would get
He
spanked with.
never had to hit me.
Gotcha.
And
Well, what about your mother?
Mom was so happy when she got a job with the unemployment service.
Okay.
She had her own money. She could do whatever she wanted. And I was already 18 or 19 years old, and my brother was a pain in the neck. And Dad went after him once, and I got in front of Dad. I said, "Leave him alone.
Yeah.
You'll only make him worse."
Okay. How many brothers did you have? Any
I
sisters?
had two brothers.
Two brothers. Okay.
David and Jerry. Jerry got cancer. What do you call it? Down below.
Pancreas or something?
What?
Pancreas maybe or
Anyhow, he got cancer
somewhere.
and it spread through his body.
Okay.
He died at 65 years old. And David went to school to become a chef. And instead, he became a mailman.
All right.
But he got a good pension and everything. He got along good. We played a lot of pinochle in those days. The family would always get together. And Dorothy's family played bingo every Sunday.
Okay.
So we went to that.
So family was pretty important to you guys then, growing up.
Yes, like I said before, I wanted to work for Hughes Aircraft in California. She didn't want to move.
Yeah, to leave the family and
It
friends.
was a better job. I could have been a rocket scientist.
Right.
But they needed electricians and people who knew computers and electricity. Yeah, I learned a lot about electricity.
Yeah.
I can handle all that. Oh, and one of the IBM printing machines, the first big one I had, that would print 600 lines a minute, I had to work on. So I turned it off. I thought it was off. I went to open the cover. The cover still had 240 volts across it. And it went up this arm and out the other arm, knocked me down.
Really?
And I was sitting on the floor, and people were walking by looking at me laughing.
That's
They
a lot of
didn't realize
voltage.
I almost got
Yeah.
electrocuted.
That's a lot of voltage.
There were some guys, they could do it. IBM's, most of the machines ran on 48 volts. They would touch it to see if there was voltage there. I did it once. I couldn't do that
No, that doesn't sound fun.
because the electricity didn't hurt you. It's when you drag your arm back and hit something.
Right, yeah, the jerk, right?
Yeah.
Hit your elbow or something.
Well, I've seen guys in cars, remember them pulling wires on spark plugs. I could never do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I worked on cars a lot. I would have been a good mechanic if we did that.
Well, that's what you did in the service, right? You worked on. You were,
Jeeps and trucks.
yeah, but you were a mechanic, basically, somewhat.
We were tired because in Korea, the roads, there were no good roads. They would get mud in the brakes. We would put a new set of brakes on, and 1 month they were gone.
Yeah. Would the mud wear down the pads quicker?
Yeah.
Is that what happens?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was hard to get parts. But I could change how many wheels were on the trucks. 4 in back and 2 in front.
Okay.
I could put all the brakes on in one day, and no problem.
Gotcha.
If we had the parts.
Right. Yeah, you need that, right?
So I was not a war hero in Korea, but I did my job.
Right. Well, that makes you a hero in my book. So
Yeah.
everybody has to do their part.
And we only had one air raid from the Chinese. What was the name of their plane? I forgot.
Of what?
Oh, they were Russian planes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we only had one air raid from them. They didn't do any damage.
Nothing happened.
No.
Probably scary though.
If they knew where we were. Oh, when the Chinese were shooting at us, and I said, Sarge, we got 16 barrels of gas. If they hit that, we're going to the moon. That's when he decided we're moving back.
Right.
So every place I went, I did my job, got fired twice from General Motors in 2 days.
Right. Well, it sounds like you came around and you had a successful career at IBM. So, and you've always been a hard worker. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, IBM was a good job. Every place I went, they would say, "Get out of his way, get him a cup of coffee."
Right. Yeah, you had a lot of respect, and people,
Then after I did whatever I was supposed to do, I could leave or do whatever. Then they didn't care about me.
right. Okay, get that coffee cup back.
But it was a responsible job.
Yeah.
Wherever I went, they were waiting to run payroll.
Yeah, a lot of
or
pressure.
tax or something.
Did you feel the pressure? Did that bother you, or you like living in that atmosphere a little bit because you knew what you were doing?
Sometimes it's too much pressure.
Yeah. Oh,
If people are standing watching you,
okay.
if I'm by myself, I can do the job.
Right. Just leave me alone and let me do my job.
A couple times I asked them, "Why don't you leave the room and let me think a little bit?"
Yeah.
Because those tabulating machines had 1,800 relays and 60 circuit breakers,
Okay.
and, counters, and everything else. They were quite complicated.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
So if I could run my test deck on it with the 80 column cards, everybody, I don't know if they know anything about 80 column cards.
No,
And
I don't.
every person they would punch their name and address and all that in one card.
Okay.
And they might have 2 or 3 cards what the job did or something. So I still have a box of the 80 column cards, which I use to make notes on.
So basically, you would feed these cards into the machine and it would read their name off it and what job they did and how many hours or something like that. Is that kind of what they were for?
Yeah, whatever they did.
Whatever they needed to track.
Whatever the computer does today
Yeah.
was on punch cards in those
Right.
days. And I had a customer, Silver Cup Red, and that sorted, I forgot how many cards a minute, maybe 400 or 500 cards a minute. And it kept jamming. And the cards got torn up, so that he had to, the